Today's video, we're going to talk about dynamic location insertion on Google Ads and why you do not want to use this. This is all the rage. People are saying that putting the location in the ad dynamically will increase your click-through rates, and it will, but not nearly as much as an alternative here that I'm going to talk about in this video, okay? People talk about anything that you can do in 2 seconds that potentially works, people will always tout because people are lazy. Fundamentally, when they want to manage their campaigns. But what I'm telling you here, and what I consistently do on this channel is to say, why settle for 20% increases in click-through rate and increases in profit when you could get 100, 150, just doing some damn work, actual work. We're not talking about thousands of hours of work here. We're talking about, 10 hours of work, getting it done, and then making it an extra double forever. Okay, I'm going to go over how to do that on today's video, what the so-called alternative is, and then specifically why you don't want to use, because the alternative is better, dynamic location insertion. That is, what is the weaknesses in it, why it doesn't work like people say it does work, including Google. And if you stay to the end of the video, I'll have some actual case studies where the alternative, what kind of results we got with that in general, which explains clearly why you don't want to go with dynamic keyword or dynamic location insertion itself. And by the way, dynamic keyword insertion is the same deal. I've got videos about that, how you want to do that, don't want to do that as well, for the same kind of reasons I'm going to go over in regards to dynamic location extensions itself. So yes, you could get an improvement with dynamic location extension if you do know what you're doing in terms of utilizing it, but it's going to be marginal. You're not really going to get much out of it. You're not going to probably even notice the increase in click-through rate you're going to get from it. And even if you do, it's just a drop in the bucket compared to what you could get otherwise with an alternative method that I'm talking about here. So getting into the content, dynamic location extensions on Google Ads let you put the user's location in the ad. Just to clear this up, if it isn't clear enough what is going on here, you literally put a curly bracket location in the ad. Now, I don't know if that's the exact way to do this because I don't use it anymore, but that's close to what it is, if you will. Actually, I just verified again, that is still what it is to this date. Google didn't change it. You could put in there, if you want to use dynamic location extension, even after I'm telling you not to do it here, you could put an alternative, just like with dynamic keyword insertion, you could put, hey, if the location isn't available or it's too big or whatever, you could put Chicago in there or Dallas by default in case it doesn't work, so to say. So you will get, and just to be clear here, you'll get an increase in performance putting the location in the ad for a local service campaign generally every time, excluding that, and then the extra gain you're going to get by having the dynamic location extension in there, given that it doesn't show up right, which is what I'm going to talk about in this video, you're getting an extra 10, 20% increase in click-through rate or marginal increases in click-through rate doing it. So because it doesn't work typically, you do want to have the default location there if you are going to use it. But again, there's a much better way to just bypass it altogether and get the most results out of your ads accordingly, because we want the most results. That's what we do here on this channel. So in theory, this actually does, if it worked like it was supposed to, I would start using it. I've tested this myself. I know how crappy it is in terms of what it says it's supposed to do by Google is not what it actually does. It would be great if all the way down to the individual suburb was in the ad versus saying Chicago, you're saying Lincoln Park, the user's in Lincoln Park or whatever. That'd be fantastic, if you will. Why? Because there's, in an area like Chicago, there's 100 suburbs and sub-cities and all this in the greater metro area. So you would always be able to have the exact suburb in the ad and, just letting you know outright your click-through rate difference between putting Chicago in the ad and Lincoln Park when the person is in Lincoln Park is substantial. How much more click-through rate? Well, just by having Chicago in the ad, you'll typically get an extra 50% click-through rate just by doing that alone. And if you're in a larger metro area, we'll say anything over the top 50 highest, most population metros across the US, especially in the top 20, you can actually not get a 50% increase in click-through rate just putting the name of the metro in that ad. You can get 150% increase in those highly populated metroplex areas itself. People want to see the location of where they're at so that they know before even clicking on the ad that they're not wasting their time. You cover their area. And yeah, you may say, well, it says Chicago. They should know I cover their area. No, they want ultimate certainty. They want to know for sure you cover their area. And yes, they may, if they don't have any other options, just click your ad anyway. But when your ad's sitting right next to somebody's other ad, and you say Lincoln Park and the other guy says Chicago, what are you going to click on as a user? You need to know if you're going to hire that cleaning company that it covers Lincoln Park. I'm just going to click on the Lincoln Park one, everything being equal, at a much, much higher rate than the one that says Chicago. I mean, logically speaking, you can't even possibly question this. We like to talk ourselves out of this type of stuff when we're advertising because we don't want to work or do anything. And we just convince ourselves it doesn't matter. But I love that because that puts me in position to be in a market where 95% of the people aren't going to either do it or want to do it or whatever. They're too arrogant to do it. I'll do it and I'll get that extra massive increase in click-through rate, which directly goes into lowering your cost per click, raising market share that is available to you, gets Google to want to show your ad a higher percentage of the time, gets Google to want to show you to the better quality users because they divvy out the best traffic to their best advertisers, even within a keyword. So when you type in cleaning services, they'll find the part of the traffic that converts the best and give it to you now because you have the sky-high click-through rate. All of this stuff happens once you beat all your competition in the click-through rate that you have, and especially when you can beat it by a large margin. So, and especially in markets where you're in a competitive market, because in a lot of markets now, like a cleaning service, there's 20 guys advertising and trying to jockey for the top 4 ad spots on Google, and you're trying to expect to make money here. The easiest way to do it is just to have the best ad itself. And all you got to do that is put the keyword in the ad with some small exceptions there and put the location in the ad, specifically the user's suburb or exact city that they're in, like we're talking about here. So it's really straightforward, which anybody can do. Anybody can be in the top 10% of their market just by doing this simple stuff that I just mentioned. It's up to you to do it. Dynamic location insertion, where they automatically try to put the user's location into the ad, it doesn't work as advertised. I mean, it does sometimes, but from the testing that I've done, locations will show up in the ad. That is not the default one you set, but the actual user location. So if your default is supposed to say Chicago, if it doesn't work, but really it's supposed to say the user's suburb in there if they're from a suburb, that'll work less than 50% of the time for sure. I mean, you may get lucky, I guess. I mean, anything's possible, but it's going to work like 20% of the time. So how the hell are you going to get an increase in click-through rate when it only works like sporadically like that, or basically doesn't work? Okay. So it does work a little bit. Depending on your market, you may get it to show up, 40% of the time, or it could be 5% from what I've seen. So, and then on top of that, or should I say link to that, the reason why it doesn't show up is because the location doesn't fit, which they could put the default location there. But if it's a long location and you haven't allowed a lot of room for it to be put there, it's not going to show up very often. So that would be one way to improve how often it does work. So literally speaking, if you wanted it to work at the highest level, you would actually put the second headline and just put the location by itself in there, because no matter how long the suburb name is, it will fit every time, so to say, if you will, which has its own drawback because you can't do other things along with it. You're just, taking this one-size-fits-all approach, but it is actually not a bad idea too much to put on your second headline in, and then space, and then location. You'll do pretty well with that setup. Now, that said, though, that's not the only way that you can get the suburb to actually show up in the ad there. If it were, I would use it, but it just still also doesn't show up despite actually giving it plenty wide enough berth for it to show up. I still just don't know why it doesn't show up. I don't have an answer for you why completely Google doesn't fix this, but they don't. But even if they did fix it, I'm still not going to use it because the money in PPC And advertising in general is in the nuance. You go into detail on everything you're doing and you'll consistently keep making more money. There's a day that you've optimized it enough where you're just making loads of money because you've fixed and optimized every part of what you're doing. You make 10% here, you make 10% here, 20% here. Pretty soon you're making millions. And that's how most people that are advertising are going to make money. Or they have so much money they can throw at it that eventually the ads just work with all the tracking data that they're feeding in, and it works that way. But respectively, either way, you start out with marketing to everybody, you find the 5% that absolutely freaking crushes it, and then that's where the millions come from. And that's what you got to be able to do. And then, of course, the 5% quadruple down on so that you show up every single time for those people. And that's how the millions are typically made with PPC and online advertising. So for that matter, if you want the maximum results you can get with your ads, you need to be creating manual campaigns for separate locations. So every single local service campaign that I run, where we go to the customer, if you will, not when the customer comes to us, like a doctor's office or a store where we sell home medical supplies for elderly people, okay, or a furniture store. In those cases, we don't use different campaigns for different cities because ultimately, it doesn't fit, so to say. But if we're going to the end consumer, they definitely want to know if we cover their area. It massively matters putting that location in there because they want to know, can you do it? Do you cover their area? Can they trust you? And the quicker and better you communicate those three things on the ad, the higher the click-through rate you get. And the best way to do the location is to put the actual exact location that they're in and say, we serve your market exactly. This is why I wish location insertion worked, because ultimately in a city like Chicago, there's a lot of tiny areas that we won't create dedicated campaigns for. That name of that little suburb will show up in the ad because there's so few clicks from that little area that we're going to get that it doesn't even make sense to run a campaign for that area because it's not going to get any clicks anyway. And it's going to segment our campaigns too much. That is, spread the data out between too many campaigns. And it makes it take forever to get a higher quality score. And you'd be better off just having something that's more general in terms of the location on the ad in those areas that might get 10 impressions a month. Okay. So the middle ground there is, and of course, that said, you don't want to just say Chicago either. That's not even close to giving you the most results you can get. You want a middle ground. The middle ground that I found typically that is the sweet spot between you're not spreading out your data over too many campaigns that'll affect how fast you rack up high quality scores in ad rank, and where you're not really getting any high click-through rates because your ad stands out because the location's in the ad and it matches the user's location, is to take all the cities over 50K in population, set up unique campaigns for all them, and then any other city that's under 50K in population, they're going to get what I call a catch-all campaign. So it's just going to say Chicago or the name of the county, something like that, if you will. But with that setup, you can guarantee that the location's going to be in the ad and specific to the user's exact location. Not just saying Chicago, but Lincoln Park, Naperville, whatever, which are all suburbs of Chicago. If you didn't know, that's important because we want it to show up, but also in addition to that, we can really control what the user sees because each location, there's a different length of characters to describe or, to name, if you will, that location. Naperville is a longer one than, or we'll say Lincoln Park is a longer location than Naperville. So when our ads are set up for our Lincoln Park campaign, we got to rearrange our ad to make sure Lincoln Park actually fits in the ad. Typically, I can tell you putting the location in the first headline is going to get you the highest click-through rate. But if you can't fit it in the first headline because the location's too long, this is just something I've learned over many years running hundreds of these local service campaigns. You put it in the second headline, and then that's where you go. And that's going to get you the best results. So ultimately, manual campaigns will get your ad to always show, and it'll show ideally because you're deciding on a location by location basis how that ad should be structured for maximum click-through rates. And you'll create several templates based upon the location character length. So if a location has 10 characters, you'll use this template here. If it has less than 15 characters, you use this template. If it has less than 20 characters, you use this template. If it has less than 30 characters, you'll use this template. That's how you get the best results with ads. I know this because I've tested it every which way, and that's the way that we do it. So typically, going back to what I was saying before, if you want the best results with your local service campaigns, you want to have the keyword in the headline, not always just one-to-one direct like that. Like for instance, if you have cleaning services near me as a keyword, you don't want to put cleaning services near me in the headline because that would sound robotic. You want to say cleaning service near you instead, because that's what they type in. You're going to get the highest click-through rate mirroring what they typed in the ad. So that's your first part of your headline. Now, if that keyword's short enough, that is, it's not very many characters, given the maximum character length on the first headline is 30 characters, then what you're going to do to get the maximum click-through rate for that particular keyword is to say in, and then the name of the location. So cleaning service in Naperville. If that doesn't fit, the next best thing that we found is cleaning services Naperville. So in other words, you take out in. If that doesn't fit still, then you could go into the second headline. You could say best cleaning service in Naperville on the second headline. If that doesn't fit, best cleaning service Naperville. If that doesn't fit, then you could put in Naperville. If that doesn't fit, you could put Naperville on that second headline. So literally we'll have a different literal, like I was just saying, different templates for different keyword links in terms of the keyword we're targeting, because we use single keyword ad group setups, and for different links of location. So we have the perfect ad for every single keyword, every single location, which most people, they're going to say, screw this, it's too much work, sound like an arrogant prick here, but this is how we can guarantee results at our firm. It's not that hard to guarantee results on Google Ads at the end of the day if you are just willing to do the work other people aren't willing to do for the user. If you help the user instead of just being like, I don't need that. One ad with broad match keywords and smart bidding is good enough. I don't need anything else. And you can be arrogant like that. Then you're just not going to have an edge anymore, and your stuff's not going to work as good, at least as quickly. Broad match, that maybe works eventually really well, but why piss all that money away up front at the very least? But even then, it still doesn't work as good. Like I've said before, if anybody is disputing what I'm saying here, I'll bet you $10,000 I can get you a higher click-through rate on my ad than you are going to get with your single ad with broad match keyword ultimately. Now, I'm saying that I'm being a bit crass here, but the reality is the reality. I get upset sometimes because people say what I'm saying is outdated and antiquated and all this stuff. The user still just wants a relevant ad. What happens at Google, what they're changing, at the end of the day, people want relevant ads. Period. End of story. That's it. Okay? It's never going to change. If Google's around 50 years from now, that's not going to change ever. So you can put the work in to make sure the consumer gets the most relevant ad out of all your competition, and you get all the kudos for it, or you don't. Now, catch-all campaigns, going back to what I was saying about that, like I said before, the sweet spot is about 50K in population and up. That location gets its own campaign. If not, it doesn't. And if it's in a smaller area, then it gets the catch-all campaign. So typically, we'll say Chicago, if we're in the Chicago metro area. Sometimes, though, we'll have the county name itself. Why is that? Because, if they're not in Chicago and they're kind of out on the outskirts, then in that particular case, it's actually better to have the county name itself. Or just to make it simple, if they're not in a 50K or greater population area, then you just say the name of the county and then the county name. Going back to what I was saying before about the templates, you just replace the city with the county, and then you have the best result you're going to get then, if you will. So, naturally, this obviously will change in higher volume markets. If you're in a market like plumbing services, okay, that's a higher volume market. You can get better results. Instead of doing the top 50,000 by population, just go 20,000 and up in terms of population. I'd already do a dedicated campaign. Conversely, if you're doing something like foundation repair, which, there's very little actual search volume, in that particular case, I might actually only do 100K and up because of the lack of data that I'm going to get on these smaller campaigns. And therefore, the smaller campaigns will never, ever get broken in real well because there's just no data there, which is the reason why I'm telling you what I'm telling you here. So for that matter, I know you guys, have said before, and Yeah, I've had some comments offline about how I talk shit about other people on this channel about what they're doing and all that, and I'm not supposed to do that. Sometimes I can't help myself. I apologize for doing that. The reality is, though, there's so much out there in regards to advertising and marketing by people who are just really good showmen, but they don't know how to advertise. I get a little frustrated at it because the most common questions I get is, Corey, I thought this single keyword ad group method is outdated, or why do I need one campaign? Isn't that the best way? I hear these what I hear all the time. So I apologize for being so crass about and talking about, but you got to also need to know this stuff. You got to know most of the people who give you information online about PPC don't actually run any ads, or they run a couple ads and that's it, which makes the information irrelevant. They're just telling you what you want to hear, which is it's easy and it doesn't take very much time, so that you'll buy into what they're selling, which is getting you hooked on their channels. So you'll buy a course, you'll watch, they'll get money on ad revenue. That's what they care about. If you want the real information and the real truth, you subscribe to this channel, because I don't sugarcoat anything. And so if you haven't subscribed already, take a minute to do that. You'll do yourself a big favor if you truly want to make millions of dollars a year running ads for your business, or at the very least, understand how it's done. So if you do hire somebody, you at least know how to tell them what you kind of want to do and let them do all the work. Because you hire people, you got to at least know some of this. Otherwise, they're going to probably not do a very good job for you either. But anyway, I got a great blog on my site as well. You should check that out as well. If you haven't, it's at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has step-by-step instructions to do the strategies I talk about on this channel, in which we guarantee results for our clients. You can replicate those strategies for yourself on your own campaigns. I've got screenshots. I've got the whole list of instructions there on how to do them. So if you like the channel, you should check the blog out as well. If you have any questions about anything I'm covering here, by the way, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, and I'll get back to you typically within 24 hours time. I get back to everybody who asks me questions in the comment section. I also, by the way, got a group that I've opened up on Discord where I'm answering questions there. You can join that in the video description. There's a link to the group. There's other guys that'll also answer your questions there, by the way, that are following this channel that have joined, and we're up to about 100 users already in there talking regularly, and it just keeps growing like crazy now. I want to get into the case studies here in terms of how much this strategy works here. But before I dip into that as well, I also do want to say that if you do want somebody to help you out, I mean, of course I do paid coaching and consulting with not only companies, but agency owners. You can reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com if you're interested in setting up a call like that. Can really help you out, avoid potential disaster with something that you're planning on doing, and just save yourself tons of time and money to find out if it's likely to work, because I've likely already done that before. Also, though, I do, of course, full-on services for companies like yourself, where we'll build all your campaigns and we'll guarantee your results. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in the profitability. We do that for all new clients coming in. We're the only agency who does that. And I can get you an 8-quarter projection of your results upfront for free if you reach out to me by agency and you're serious about, partnering with our agency and letting us manage your ads. So you can also reach out to me for that. And for that matter, I also sell templates. If you're in a market that we've already been in already, we can sell you the winning ads, landing pages, all of it that work for your market. You copy paste those into your ad account and get the same results we're getting already for a different client in your same niche, but in a different city or country. So, and we've got hundreds of different niche templates. So, because we've been in business over a decade. So chances are quite high we've got the template you're looking for, or a market that you want to enter where you can start that business on easy mode because you already got the template that will be profitable that you can run for that market already, which literally is like the easiest way to start a business, in my opinion, is just starting with the template. And then you could even just outsource all the delivery of the product or service at that point in time, because you've got the most valuable part of the business figured out up front. So anyway, it's like having a business in a box. And for that matter, if you're interested in that, reach out to me as well. Going into the case studies here. So just to give you an idea overall, how much results you're going to get in addition to what you're doing right now, just putting the generic city name in your ad versus doing the structure that I talked about, where you have different campaigns for different locations, and you do it to the level of the detail that I talked about, not skipping any steps, not half-assing it, you will be able to get routinely 50 to 150% more click-through rate on your ad, which, like I said, it benefits you multiple ways. Lower cost per click, higher conversion rates through Google giving you better quality traffic, more clicks available because they're going to show you more. They're going to give you a bigger ad. You're going to be higher up in the list. All this, it helps you multiple ways, 6, 7 different ways. If you get click-through rate up, you'll always make more money. That's just a law of PPC in general, but especially with Google. So, and the type of stuff that you have to do to get that kind of a gain out of, like, hey, maybe if we say best instead of top, that stuff is great, but you're not going to be getting no 100% increase in click-through rate doing that. So this is like proven and the easiest way to do it to get a large gain if you haven't done it already. Of course, if you're running a campaign now and you're doing well, by the way, and you want to add this strategy to what you're doing, you can't just change up your ads because you're going to screw up your results long term. You're going to have new campaigns. You're going to run the new campaign side by side with the old ones that you have, which I call a parallel strategy, until you've ran the new campaigns 3, 6, 9, 12 months, and then eventually shut off the old campaigns once the new campaigns you have are broken in over time, so your results don't go down sharply before they go up. Instead of that, it'll just slowly go up at that point in time. So, but that 50 to 150% is a large range. You may say, well, is it really going to be 150 or is it only going to be 50? It depends on your market. It depends how much people care about knowing that you are local to them, or should I say, can serve their market. So to give you one example here, we had a cleaning services company that I looked into. And before we implemented this strategy for the client, given that they were using a generic ad, we got a 62% increase in click-through rate for somebody who's already using dynamic keyword insertion. So they already had the keyword in the headline, but when we switched to also putting the location in the ad using that structure I just talked about, we got a 62% increase in click-through rate. So that's on the low side, but I would say that is because when you're hiring a cleaning company, you kind of like assume they cover the whole area, so it's less important. Whereas the second example here that I have for you here, a foundation repair company, it's a little bit more important to know that you cover my area. More concerned about it in general. It's a bigger factor in my decision on whether I'm going to click on your ad or somebody else's. And in that case, we got a 112% increase in click-through rate, going from not having one city in the ad all the time versus the exact user city itself in a large metropolitan area. So big difference between the two. I mean, basically, you're talking about twice the difference or 2x difference here. However, it doesn't stop there. We had a kitchen remodeling company with the same scenario was there, and we got a 136% increase in click-through rate there, which is insane, obviously. What can you do to increase your click-through rate that much? There's basically nothing else you can do that I know of. Once you've actually put, of course, and done your job and had an ad for every keyword you're targeting, because that's, out of everything you're doing, that's number one still. The number two, though, is the location. Matching the user suburb, that's the number two thing that's going to get you the increase in in terms of size of increase in click-through rate that you can get out of, different strategies you can use. So anyway, that's a really good example of how well this works for your brand when you implement it. But will vary based upon the niche that you're in and how much you can estimate how much it matters to people. It will always matter for a localized service, home service. It's just a matter of how much is your gain going to be, but it's never going to be so small that you shouldn't do it. Okay? For that matter, I just wanted to let you know that I've been investing in companies recently since about 2020. If I saw a good company that wanted to work with us, I said, hey, I don't want you to just pay us a monthly service fee to run your ads. I want to invest in your company. I will give you $50K worth of ad spend. I'll give you free agency services. Cut us in on a part of your company. I want to own 5% of your company, and I want 5% of your revenue growth moving forward. Ultimately, if we make more than a 5-to-1 return in sales to ad spend, we'll reinvest the excess, that we're making there back into more ad spend, and we'll grow your company infinitely after that. Or, obviously there's a limit to a market in the market size, but we'll take you from that $500,000 a year that you're now doing to $5 million, And, you know, you give us the 5% cut gross of the 4.5 million extra that is on overall sales, not just from PPC, we'll do all that for you. If you want the best results on your ads, frankly, hiring myself to come in and do that is the best way, because at that point in time, I can throw everything in the kitchen sink at your stuff, because I know the cash out on the back end is going to be huge versus, you know, we can only provide so much resources for a monthly service because we don't know we're going to get the cash out of the back end. Well, if I know I can get it, I can throw everything just knowing the return is going to be on the back end. So that's the best way to get the best results, frankly, in general for yourself. If you're interested in having a true partner and investor, I'm looking for more deals right now to invest in. I've got several that I've done. I can show you the results we got with them. They're doing multiple millions a year now since they started with us, and to where they're at now. I can drop some names, and but with that said, I'm looking for somebody who has a great product or service, not just some Me Too thing. You got to have something that I really believe in. Ideally, something that's better than anything else out in the market or close to it in terms of reviews, your reputation, quality, something like this. And if you have a proven track record of sales, that is, we know that there's an actual market for what you're selling, generally speaking. And then if you got that and you think I would be interested, reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com. I'll look over your stuff and we'll see if we can do something. But with that said, I'm going to wrap everything up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.